excited, well, we're really excited to be here with Jennifer Culpepper, this beautiful place, the Josephine Butler Center. I want to thank Rashina and Mackenzie for all your help tonight to make this place so wonderful and inviting for all our guests. Thank you. Also, all of our volunteers, we really couldn't do it without your help, so thank you for all your support. Anyone missing Layla up here right now? Because I am. Oh, boy, Layla, thank you for everything you do, and know that you are appreciated. So tonight, Jennifer Culpepper is going to talk to us about branding your cannabis business. She is the creative director and owner of Peppermill Projects, based in Annapolis? Mm-hmm. Okay. Her project, Brand Join, is hosting a Win a Brand competition, which is an opportunity to win $10,000 worth of branding for your cannabis business. So if you have not entered, please consider entering Win a Brand. It's a great chance to win some amazing branding and a chance to evaluate your role in the emerging cannabis economy. I'm really nervous, all right. We as business owners, activists, and patients are building the foundation of a brand new industry. And we can build this industry with intersectionality as a forethought and not an afterthought. Race, class, and gender have together created structural barriers to equal access, not only in the cannabis industry, but also in society as a whole. Women Grow DC recognizes this and is dedicated to doing away with those barriers so women, people of color, and others traditionally included will not be overlooked here in the nation's capital as we push legalization across the country, ending prohibition and the war on drugs. Speaking of pushing legalization on the nation's capital, Women Grow DC is proud to be the founding member of the National Cannabis Festival, being held April 23rd on the grounds of RFK Stadium. The National Cannabis Festival is focused on education and advocacy and we hope it will alter the stereotypical cannabis gathering image and present a real event with social issues associated with legalization. This event is sure to gain national attention, and we hope to see you there. Now, Jennifer, thank goodness you will take over.
Thank you. As she said, my name is Jennifer Culpepper, and I am the founder and creative director of a company called Peppermill Projects, where we do branding and design for mainstream companies, and this is some of our work. We do consumer-based products, services, nonprofits, and we've been doing it for quite a long time. A couple years ago, I had been paying attention to what's been going on out west and with legalization, and I was feeling like I wanted to get a better sense of the market. So I took a trip out to Denver, and I visited several dispensaries, and I went to Cannabis Cup, and and I really was blown away by what I saw out there. And the one thing that really stood out to me quite a bit at Cannabis Cup was the diversity of the people who attended. I guess I sort of had it in my mind that it would be one way, and really it was everyone from college-age kids to senior citizens, men, women, people of all races, gay, straight. It was so diverse. And I guess I kind of also thought it was more recreational people. There was a lot of that, but there were parents there that were advocating for their sick children, there were patients, there were people who were very health conscious. So it was really very broad. And so that was the first thing that I kind of noticed with that group. The second thing I was really blown away by was the amount of different types of products that were being shown. And it wasn't even just the cannabis or cannabis-infused products or anything like that. It was just all of the other accoutrements that go with things and ways to consume it and ways to grow it and kind of just, rows and rows and rows of different kinds of products. So I was kind of looking at that, and one of the things that sort of struck me about all of those products, and I can't say all of them, but the majority of them, was that even with such a broad and diverse audience, everything was really branded very similarly. It was kind of very much like finding the least common denominator of what everybody had in common, which was that they enjoyed marijuana. And so you saw a lot of Rasta, a lot of tie-dye, a lot of stereotypical stigma. So this is one of the things I saw a lot of it, except for that, I didn't see that there. But, he wasn't there, unfortunately. But, so this was kind of what I think the industry, people who aren't familiar with it, this is what they think of. And I think this is one of the biggest issues that the cannabis industry faces, is overcoming the stigma. And in order to become more welcome in a mainstream environment, I think that has to change. And I think it is changing in a lot of ways. Number one, calling it cannabis is new, and bringing that, up a level. But, go to the next one. In my opinion, branding to a specific audience and understanding this diverse audience will help to raise the entire industry as a whole. And my goal is to kind of do it one by one. So helping companies to be able to brand their products to real people who don't fit that stereotype. And these people, to me, are more relatable. I feel like I could hang out with those people, or those people could be people I know. So I kind of want to talk next a little bit more about branding. How many people are familiar with branding? Heard the term? Okay, so now we're going to have a little audience participation part. So I want you to just yell out things that you think of with branding. When you say branding, what is that? Marketing, identity, name, logos, commercials. Yeah. So a lot of people think, when they think of a brand, they associate a logo or the look. And while that's part of the brand, that is really kind of the second half of it. So the first half of it being really understanding who you are, and the logo aspect of it being kind of how you communicate yourself. So this is, I think, a great quote by Jeff Bezos from Amazon that says, "Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room." So basically what it's kind of saying is that a brand is the entire experience that a customer has with your product, with your service, with your company. It's all of those, it's kind of a mushy sort of thing. It's not tangible.
Your reputation.
Yes, your reputation, absolutely. Totally, that's perfect. It's your reputation. And so your brand can kind of be shifted. It may be one thing and it sort of may turn into another thing, but the best way to build a strong brand is to get to know yourself and understand and ask yourself a lot of the hard questions. So this is in that booklet that I gave you. The booklet has some little worksheet things that might help you when you go home. But this is one of those things that I think asks a lot of questions that you might want to sit down and really think about with your company and your brand. So understanding your core ideology. Who are you? Why do you do what you do? What is the passion behind it? And a lot of times when we start working with clients, we always go through this brand discovery phase, and we start with this questionnaire. And when we ask people why do they do what they do, a lot of times they'll say, or I say, why did you decide to get into this business? Whatever business it is. And if they say money, I say no, it can't be money. Money can't be the answer to that because it's completely uninspiring. Nobody's going to want to jump on board with somebody who's just out to make money. You need something that's inspiring, something that can get people rallied behind you. There's actually a really great TED Talk that talks about this by a guy named Simon Sinek, who, if you haven't seen that, I recommend it. But so basically, understanding who you are is sort of the very first part of it, because then you know what it is that you're trying to project. So the next thing, I want to do a little exercise where we talk about Whole Foods. How many people have shopped at Whole Foods? I figured. Okay, so tell me some things that you would say if I said, what is Whole Foods brand?
Natural. Wholesome.
Natural, wholesome, fresh, organic.
Gluten-free.
Gluten-free.
Pricey, expensive.
Pricey, expensive, that's true.
Good quality.
Yeah.
But good quality, yeah.
Yeah, quality. So if you were to look up in that corner there, their core values are listed on the wall. And I think that they're in probably every single store. In a different way, in a different place, but every one of the things that you all mentioned are part of their core values. So when they sit there and think about who they are and what they want to be, they're taking it a step further, and they are even, if you want to go to the next slide here, basically, oh, sorry. There we go. How you view yourself. So all the things we just talked about before, all of your core values and everything. And then how others view you. So everything that you all said was exactly what is in their core values. So this is completely in brand alignment. So a lot of times, or let's say it's some other kind of store where they're trying to tell you it's a healthy product or it's a safe product, but this safe product actually had all these horrible things that happened, and now people are crashing, or like you can think of a lot of examples of that, like Toyota, or some things where or Volkswagen is a great one, where they were trying to be eco-friendly, and they had this product, this car that was supposed to be the greatest thing, and then it finds out that they were cheating on their environmental tests, and now their brand is completely misaligned. So those are some of the things to think about with your brand, and that's why, like I said, a brand is kind of a constantly changing entity. It's sort of its own animal, so you can control it to a point, but it's a lot about how others view you, and you can control it by trying to be the best quality, by trying to be the best at what you're doing, so that you're constantly living up to your own core values. But knowing those is very important, and then the next part is knowing about your customer. So in your book, there is a section called a customer profile. So this is an exercise that you all can do on your own, but I'm going to do an example one here with you. So the customer profile, when we do this with our own clients, and a lot of them have they have multiple customer segments. So Whole Foods, for example, they're not going to just have one type of customer. I mean, you look around this room and there's not two people who are the same. However, when we do these customer personas, we try to get into the idea of one person, one type of person that might be representative of a larger group. So I came up with this lady who does not exist. I mean, she exists, but not, she's not Meredith. But anyway, we're going to call her Meredith. She's 39 years old. Professional photographer, married with 2 kids, ages 4 and 6, household income of $150, an active lifestyle, and lives in Annapolis. So she is going to be our customer persona for Whole Foods. So now what I want to do is, if you look at that 360 book, we're going to kind of go through that, and we're going to answer some of the things that we are we're kind of making it up, but we're when we do this, we sort of think about people we know that might fit that, and kind of make it an amalgam of people. So, some of it might be, things that you could relate to yourself. It might be people you know. It might be things that you just think would be applicable. So let's start off with what she sees on a day-to-day basis. So what her environment is like. So, for example, what does her house look like, or her neighborhood? Anybody? Yep.
Making 150, it looks pretty nice.
Yeah.
Single family home.
Yeah, probably a single family home in a neighborhood.
Yeah.
I missed that. I don't know. Oh, a doctor.
Her husband's a doctor.
Oh, her husband? Yeah, her husband could be a doctor.
Shops at Whole Foods.
Yeah, she probably shops at Whole Foods. She probably lives in a suburban, maybe, neighborhood. Yeah. What about where she works? Like, what does she see at work, maybe?
Children? Families?
Families, yeah. She probably photographs some families.
Couples?
Yeah.
Weddings.
And since she's a mom of young kids, she's probably on the go a lot, so.
Park?
The park, yep. She probably sees it inside of her car a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe messes. Maybe she works out, she's active, so she maybe goes to the gym.
Yoga, probably.
She does seem like So what does she hear? What are the things in her environment that are influencing her?
Mommy.
Yeah, she's hearing her kids yelling at her a lot.
Her husband probably juggling her work maybe. Oh, you said she's a stay-at-home mom?
No, she's a photographer.
Oh, she's a photographer.
But she's a mom too.
Lack of time.
Yeah.
Clients telling her that they want her to be there sometime.
Yeah, so she's probably hearing people wanting things from her all the time, right?
Yeah.
And what are some, let's say, where is she on social media, for example? Pinterest. Facebook, definitely. Maybe Instagram, she's a photographer.
Maybe Snapchat too. Snapchat.
Life's a good wife.
And so, who are some of the people who influence her in her life?
Kids, her
Kids and her husband.
I'm not on Snapchat.
Sharon, the mom celebrity.
Yeah, probably other moms that she's friends with. And then when she's online or seeing media, what are some of the media outlets that might influence her?
Food Network.
Maybe, yeah.
NPR.
Did someone say Fox News? I thought she said like a Fox News watcher.
I'm an NPR. I said
NPR. NPR. I think that's better. She shops at Whole Foods, you know. So what? I lost my place here. What are the other things that she might buy? Where else does she shop?
Dutch market.
Dutch market, farmers markets, Amazon. She probably does a lot of online shopping because she's so busy.
I think she still shops at Target.
Definitely, she definitely shops at Target. Where does she buy her clothes?
Where she got clothes? J. Crew.
Stitchman's a good one. J. Crew. Nordstrom Rack, yeah.
She probably shops at J. Crew.
Yeah, especially in Annapolis, she probably is a J. Crew fan. I'm not sure about Talbot. What are the things that are influencing her purchasing decisions?
Time, her husband.
Well, what makes her choose one product or one store over another?
convenience.
Convenience, quality.
I would say quality shouldn't have much of a budget restraint.
Yeah.
Something socially conscientious.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
Easy parking.
Yeah. That's good. What are some of the things that she says and does when she's in public?
I got my kid.
Yeah, she probably talks a lot about her kids. What is I guess a better way of asking that is kind of what is her overall appearance? How does she look?
Holistic.
Happy and healthy?
Taylor, no.
Tired.
Tired? Do you think she outwardly looks tired, do you think?
No.
She probably outwardly maybe looks kind of confident?
Yeah.
And together?
Yeah, Taylor.
Yeah. Maybe she wears her yoga pants. Yes, on the outside she's got it all together, but on the inside, which is the next question, how might she feel on the inside? Tired and overwhelmed, yeah.
Needing some
It's true. So that's a really good point. You're empathizing with her. You can say, I can see that she feels this way, and I can feel how she's feeling, right? And that's really what a lot of this exercise is. So a couple more little questions in here, but so what is the customer's pain? What are the things that drive her crazy, maybe on a day-to-day basis? Her kids, yeah.
I mean, her husband maybe cheating.
How can you
Maybe she's a cheater.
So I think we all said other things like she never has enough time. That might be one of her pains.
That's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And then what might be some of the gains? So what are some of the little things that make her happy?
Hugs.
Hugs.
Flowers.
Yeah.
Probably just spending quality time with them, like being at home and not having to be running around.
Yeah. Maybe a few minutes to herself. Maybe vodka or
Here and there.
yeah, that could help.
She could be,
Exactly.
At
So
night after she puts the baby down.
that actually, you're bringing up all my points here. So it's great, it's awesome. So the first, before I get to that, I want to just say, so what we've just done in this, creating this customer persona, like I said, we are able to empathize with her. We're able to see her in a complete view of her day, of her life, and we're looking at it in a lot more detail. So often the first time I meet with a client and I say, okay, who's your target audience? A lot of people, the first thing, they start the word with everybody, and it might say everybody who, everybody who smokes weed. That's what they would say when I was at Cannabis Cup. And I say, well, that's not an audience, that's like, oh, everybody here. You can't, it's too many. So when you can look at a person and create this entire persona and this lifestyle, you can look at it in ways that you can figure out. So now we're Whole Foods, right? And we're gonna say, okay, now that we know this stuff about our customer, in what ways can we do things that can help her to have a great experience at Whole Foods? What are some things that we can do that might make her life better?
Shorter lines.
Yeah?
Parking for moms.
Or even just the parking, having parking available, right? Or, a lot of things they do, just the fact that it's so beautiful when you go into the store, like maybe those 20 minutes of her day when she has to run in and get something are like the calmest part of her day, where she's being taken care of by other people. Where you're in the produce section and she can't find the thing she's looking for, and there's always somebody there to say, can help you get something, right? Or the fact that there is the whole section of prepared food, so she doesn't have time to get home to cook dinner, so she can just run in and grab something that she knows is going to be healthy, that she knows is going to be good. And the fact that if it's important for her that things are healthy and that things are sustainable, or she's socially conscious, she has a trust level that when she goes into Whole Foods, whatever she buys is going to be okay. She trusts them. So she trusts them. And the reason she trusts them is because their core values are in alignment with the things that she knows about them, right? So the other part of that, and the reason why I chose this person to talk about, is because I think this person, this Meredith person, she could be any of our customers. And I think that in this industry, this is a very undervalued segment. Women in general. So when I was out west, I saw so many products that were branded toward the millennial male, right? So everybody's like 20-year-old guys with dabbing and all their crazy stuff. And it felt like I was like, I don't know what they're doing. But, so there's, and that's definitely a market that's a market that is, for real. There's a lot of people buying in that market, but what is being really untapped is this market and women in general. And so that's one of the things that I like to really focus on with branding, is that you want to think about not just who everyone else is targeting, but who everyone else is not targeting, right? So I have a couple examples of some products that I think are really well branded. How many people have seen this yet? Leaves by Snoop, right? Yeah. This is Leaves by Snoop.
Oh, is that Snoop Dogg's brand?
This is a whole line. So those are chocolate bars, those are flour, that is shatter, and these are gummies. Yeah, so they have an entire line. And when I first heard about, how many are Snoop Dogg fans here? Yeah. So when I first heard that Snoop Dogg was going to have his own line, I had all these visions in my head of what it would look like. And this is nothing like I thought it would look. It's beautiful, right? But
say that, I don't think that's a fair statement because one thing I've been following him since high school, have you, but he changes his image so much.
Yeah.
And
He reinvents himself.
And he is pretty much will spit around with anyone, you know.
Yeah.
So he's that type of person where he has everyone wanting to listen to him, even when he, you know, doing the Rastafari. People just change with him. So for him to be versatile like this would not be surprising.
I've been listening to Snoop since the 90s, and she's absolutely right.
Yeah.
He switches it up all the time.
You're right, yeah. But I think what's really brilliant about this is it is so clearly geared to a very upscale crowd, right? This is an upscale product. It's designed like artisanal chocolate bars. And the thing that's really cool, I think, about it is there's a lot of little details that tie him into it. So, I mean, you have the beautiful details of the design, like the very minimal design. You have the beautiful gold leaf logo. Then you have these images that, I don't know if you can tell, but they're like really bright, colorful pictures that are kind of patterns from tropical images. So what this is doing is really selling a lifestyle, leisure and luxury. More than, California or even like Caribbean or, you know, it's just beautiful.
Carefree.
And there's little details that bring him into it. So like on the tops of those is his own handwritten messages, things like smoke weed every day. And these little, because you can't have candy written on packages in Colorado, so these are dog treats. And so what he talks about with this is that these are his own personally chosen, his favorite strains, the finest cannabis. And he's known as a connoisseur. His personal brand is a cannabis connoisseur. So they've done a really great job of taking his personal brand and elevating it into a really beautiful packaging. So the next one is a little different. How many people have heard of Foria?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, I'm the only one.
Okay. I wouldn't embarrass you though. So Foria is a personal lubricant that is infused with cannabis. So again, when I first heard about this product, I had these pictures in my head that it was going to be kind of like a joke kind of thing, maybe like potion number 9 or, you know, something kind of silly. But when I saw it, I was really impressed by how they took something that could be really embarrassing or funny and they made it so sophisticated and refined that it looks like it could be sold at a department store makeup counter. Yeah, it could be sold anywhere. It could be sold at Nordstrom, it could be sold anywhere. The other thing I think this company that does really well is if you look at their website or listen to their video, the founder, when he's talking about it, everything about it, his mission or his reason for doing this was because he felt that cannabis provided a way of reaching empathy. And what he wanted to do was help heal and basically, I mean, what he talked about was, I'm trying to find exactly what he said, but deep healing and unlock profound pleasures, removing the pain and stress from women. And it's very much about women. While on there it says, well, it can be used for men too and things, but clearly it is very much geared towards women. And so what I think they do really well is they understand their audience. They understand their wants and needs of their audience. For example, they talk about how it's completely natural, it's made with coconut oil, and they get into all of the ways that it's made so that you feel comfortable using it. And they take that stigma away from both the sexual aspect of it and from the drug aspect of it, which I think is really, really unique. So that's basically my presentation. Again, the brand joint, to celebrate our launch, we are doing a win a brand contest, and we are going to be giving away brand strategy, a logo design, and a packaging design to one lucky cannabis donor. So I encourage you all to go on the website. There's more information on how to enter there. So yeah, there's a website, and all of our social media is that, so feel free to follow us and connect.
Thank you. Jennifer. Thank you, everybody. There's still some wine and probably food, so if you want to just, we have a little time to relax. Do we want to do a networking?
Did anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Any questions?
No?
There has to be a question.
One question?
Oh, okay.
So I actually just came back from Colorado today.
Yeah.
And, but I was in Denver, so I was like walking through the Denver district, and I was looking at the various stores, just everything, because the way they had, so like the pipe stores, they look like really seedy, the signs, and they have it downstairs, but then they have these gorgeous other stores, like the clothing lines, and and so I guess. And from my understanding, they're really more progressive. They've been doing it for a while, and I spoke to some people in the stores and things. But the way that they're selling the products, it makes it seem like, oh, I shouldn't go in there. That's a bad thing.
It's interesting. I had a little bit of a different experience when I went. I went to several different dispensaries, and I actually felt like a few of the ones that I went to were so well branded. There was one that I went to. Yes, exactly. When I went there, I mean, that was very much geared to that millennial male, but I mean, they had the tables with the jars with the flower in them, and you could smell it and look at it, and next to each one had an iPad that had all the information about each one. I mean, it was really like being in the Apple store is what it felt like. And then I went to another one that I don't remember the name of, but when I went in there, it looked like a yoga studio. I mean, it had Oriental rugs on the floor. It was all about, healing and wellness, and it felt completely different. And even the way that they kind of moved people through it, like the first one was very much like you're kind of in, you do what you do, you go take your little thing up, and but this one, you went to the counter and you spoke with the bud tender, and they walked you through it all, and it was a much different experience. So what I really thought that a lot of the dispensaries, or at least the ones I went to, seemed to understand their customers and who they were trying to bring in. But they pretty much all had the same products at each one of them. They were just displayed somewhat differently. Like one of them I went to and I said, well, what do you recommend here, and all these edibles and all these different options? And the guy basically said, well, if you like chocolate, pick chocolate. If you like cookies, pick cookies. And I was like, okay. Yeah.
Can you talk about the branding differential for medical side of cannabis versus adult use?
Yeah.
I don't think there is one. Because, if you think about pharmaceutical companies, how much money are they spending on marketing? You probably see a commercial for Cialis or for whatever on TV, at least every time you're watching TV. It's about the lifestyle, and I think that, I sort of take it back. The fact is you're reaching a different audience, right? So it's all about figuring out who your audience is, and your audience for medicinal is going to be a different audience than the adult use. But I still think the process of branding is the same.
So my question is, I do holistic healing, and I can see lots of correlation between holistic healing and the cannabis industry. And so can you speak a little more about that, like how can you brand and kind of join together those two worlds that aren't very different, but they kind of are in the sense of how you approach building your brand?
Well, I'm not sure I fully understand what you're asking, but I guess when you're designing any kind of brand, and if you're thinking that your core value is around wellness and well-being, that kind of will guide where you go with your brand. So I think it's really just more of a direction, and you can sort of use some of the yoga studios or spas as inspiration for what you're working with your brand. Is that answering what you're?
Kind of, because I think it's very interesting to see how, like something that you said when you were talking about the personal lubricant, and I was like literally just having this conversation with Tierra, like I can see that there is a correlation between women who smoke weed and their kind of healing process, but I kind of see that in an anecdotal way. I'm like, there has to be a way to kind of bring the two together, but how do you do that without kind of alienating audiences? Maybe people who like holistic healing but don't smoke, and people who don't smoke but don't necessarily see the value in holistic healing, so.
So you're saying you would have different audiences that consume cannabis and that don't?
Possibly, yeah, because some people just aren't into, I'm like, I see how it helps, but some people just aren't into it. But I think
Do you
that
mind me
there's some
asking,
people-
what is your business?
Yeah, so I do Reiki and I do
Okay.
yoni steaming.
Okay.
And so it's specifically with yoni steaming, I deal with women. A lot of women who have had, for example, sexual trauma. I can see how cannabis would be helpful to them in kind of processing those emotions and the things that come with it. But I think it's a little difficult kind of bringing those two worlds together in a brand where people know that this is kind of, you offer this service and this is how you can add to it,
I think that's a difficult position to be in because you're talking about two totally separate experiences. I mean, when I talk to people about specializing, everyone's first reaction tends to be like, well, but what about all those other people I'm not gonna get? You know, like, well, if I specialize in this particular audience, what happens to that guy who's not part of my audience, you know? And I don't think that, it's not like you're saying you can't come too, but you're saying this is really what my specialty is. And the more you specialize, the easier it is to market yourself. Because there may be, I don't know how many people who do what you do, but then how many people who do what you do who also incorporate the cannabis side of it? You know, so bringing it, that specialization makes you differentiate what you do in a way that is really easy to market.
That was my question.
Okay, I got it. Yes.
So we live in, DC. A lot of people who use cannabis are still very closeted and across, the country as well. I feel like a lot of communications and marketing we do in the community is preaching to the choir, and there's a lot of noise there, but there's a lot of opportunity reaching, people who are more quiet about their use, and less likely to seek, I guess, the experiences that they could be having more easily accessible. What is your advice for reaching the Merediths and the other millennial male markets?
Well, again, I think it's about thinking about where they go. I mean, I imagine that people you're talking about are already consumers. So they already are finding some way to use and to purchase. So it's a matter of finding kind of where they are, where do they hang out, both digitally, both physically, and trying to kind of intersect at some of those places. One of the things we sometimes do with some of our clients is called a customer touch point, where we'll go through all of the different potential places where a brand can intersect with the customer. So kind of thinking about that and doing that sort of exercise might help, especially when you go through the persona, to understand your audience, and then you can kind of see where are those areas where we intersect and where are those areas that we can try to reach out. Yes.
Hey, what's the most common mistake you see with emerging cannabis businesses when it comes to branding?
With the cannabis businesses?
Yes.
Not knowing their target audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, or not really taking the time to understand what it is that their values are and doing the foundation work for branding. And I think that's not really just with cannabis. I think that's with entrepreneurs in general. People get really excited. I'm starting a business. I've got this great idea. I just need a logo. If I just have a logo, I'm all good, But they don't think about the foundation work and what it takes to kind of plan it out. I mean, one of the things that I think is really important to any successful business is your vision plan. So knowing where you want to be in a year, where you want to be in 5 years, and where you want to be in 10 years. And that's not going to necessarily always stay set in stone. In fact, every year I go through and readjust my own plan to say, okay, in this year, these are the things I want to accomplish. I see this as the future, And each year, and then you can really take it even further and say, okay, in the next month, here are the things I want to accomplish. In the next 60 days, this is what I want. In the next 90 days. That's a lot of work and planning, but that's how you can kind of see what your end goal is and then take the steps necessary to get to it.
With the customer who just sees the logo and the viral video, how do you help, if you have a client like that, how do you get them to dive back and encourage them to focus on the foundation work?
Well, we start every single project we do for every client with at least a base level of brand discovery. So I can't take a project, I can't take a logo and just go with it, because then it's just some pretty drawing I did that may work, might not, but I have no idea whether it's in the right direction, if it's reaching the right audience, so I just don't ever do a project before I've done some brand discovery work. And that can range depending on the type of client. So for a brand new client, it's going to be a lot less. For a startup, it's going to be a lot smaller. For someone who's been in business for 30 years, there's going to be, workshops and all kinds of stuff. But then maybe customer surveys and that kind of thing. Someone, you have a question? Sorry.
I was going to ask something to the extent of how you were talking earlier about how people don't want to, specify into a certain thing that they're going to do. What if your idea is sort of like under an umbrella, and then you want to branch out and do different things? So when you do brand, I don't know that my company's going to be branded a certain way, but my products would need to be branded differently because they're different and they're for different purposes. And then, so I don't know. What advice would you have as far as doing something like under an umbrella, where I want all my stuff to be under my Cupcakes by Cloud, but I have an edibles line, and then I have a cupcake line of edibles, and then I have treats and just different things. And I want to do collaborations with people.
I would start, when you start sort of figuring out what your line is, I would try to keep whatever your company is, have there be some level of consistency. So, the Snoop one was a good example because those were a whole bunch of different products that all look like they're part of the same family. They don't necessarily have to be identical, but that if you had two next to each other, you'd say, oh, these are clearly part of the same family.
Right. Okay.
And you could really go to the grocery store. Honestly, going to Whole Foods, I go to Whole Foods probably once a week. We go for lunch every now and then, and we walk up and down the aisles, mainly looking for samples, but I'm constantly looking at what new products are on the shelf and what's catching my eye, and it's a really great way to just do some research, looking around what's out there, because in my view, I see the future of the cannabis industry as basically Whole Foods shoppers. The people who would shop in Whole Foods, I think, are the untapped market.
Yeah, so I guess it kind of comments what your question was and what you just said. Those millennials who age out, so they get that job and they don't want to be dapping or doing whatever. So I guess going back to how do you keep it consistent where you brought them in, now they're in their 30s and 40s and they remember this brand and they still want to be connected to it.
Part of that is creating brand loyalty, so constantly keeping up with your customers and knowing what their pain points are, what what it is that you're providing to them, that they're responding to. In some cases, they may age out of your product, and that's okay because you're going to have others aging in. The hardest place to be really is in that young market where you're trying to stay with all the young people coming in, because what's cool right now is not going to be cool now. In 5 minutes it's going to be something else. So that's why I think that that's a tough market to be in, and I think in general every industry has a hard time branding to millennials for one reason or another. I think this is a different animal, but I do think that when you have your loyal fans, your raving fans or whatever, those are the people that you want to constantly be keeping in communication with, keeping, some interactivity so that you're always understanding what it is that they want.
So I guess it's sort of like this safe way, put in your phone number, knock the dollars off
So there's a a lot of ways that bigger companies do that. I mean, every time you go to Safeway and you run it, they know everything you're buying. You know, Amazon is the perfect example. They know everything about you. In fact, every time I look at something on Amazon and then I happen to go on Facebook, every Facebook ad is everything that I just looked at online. So it is creepy.
Sponsored content.
Agreed. But what they're doing is basically what we're doing, but they're doing it on like an algorithm, on like a very expensive, way where they're tracking people. And there's something, obviously what they're doing is working on that level, but I think working on a human level is just as valuable. It just takes more effort.
Do you think when starting your startup that if you don't have a product line, if you offer more of a service, say masseuse or more, should you put a product with your name to, it seems like it's almost a little different to brand yourself and a little bit more difficult and there's nothing really tangible.
No, not really. I think, we do work with Peppermill, we do work for all kinds of different service industries. So an architect and all of them are customer based. So whether or not you are a service or you are a nonprofit who needs donations or you are a product that is going to be sold in a store, every one of those is trying to reach out to a client or to a customer. So any of those things, you don't actually need to have a tangible thing. I mean, for a website, for a masseuse, the website might be her best kind of tangible piece. And then obviously social media and other ways of kind of outreach.
Okay, anybody else? Any more questions? Oh, a couple more.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about social media in the cannabis industry? Because I know that there's been a lot of challenges with people keep on shutting down. I mean, how much focus do you think a brand should be on social media?
I say go for it as long as you can. With dispensaries, it's a little harder because I think you're going to spend so much time and effort and money to build up your social media networks, and then to have them shut down is really awful. We had an experience where we were trying to buy Google AdWords, and we did our little thing and we sent it in and we had words like cannabis branding and that kind of thing, and Google rejected it because they said it was promoting drug use. So we said, but we're not promoting drug use or drug sales or anything else. Right. But even regardless of the law, nothing about our website
are you selling drugs? Like, no, we're
not selling drugs, we're not promoting drugs, we're promoting branding and design. And they said, well, we'll review it again. They reviewed it again and they said no. They said, if you want to change the content of your website to remove the words cannabis and marijuana, then we'll let you buy it. I said, that's not really gonna help us. So I know Facebook's been taking down sites, and I know that Instagram is too.
A lot of Instagram, I will say, I've noticed, a lot of the places are making them private.
Yep.
So people have to reach out to you and then they can accept your follow, like for Instagram, for example. And that way you're able to keep your site, but you're making it so you can tell who your users are. Like if you have someone that's coming to you that looks like they're clearly 14 years old, you can deny them, a request.
By the way, this is Nicole. This is our social media guru.
But yeah, so that's one way if you're worried is to make your account private and and to vocalize that and say, please follow us on Instagram, we're private, but we will accept your request,
The other thing too is that a lot of people get flagged once they buy ads. I've heard that from people more anecdotally, that when they've bought a Facebook ad, Facebook even took their money and then shut them down. Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, I think it's been a great night, and thank you so much. We're Women Grow. We're Women's Business Cannabis
cannabis networking organization. We're all here for the same reason, so talk to your neighbor, talk to anyone in this room. I guarantee you someone can help you out. Please go say hi to District Smoke Styles in the back there, who has a cool glass setup. Thank you all so much for coming, and hope to see you again soon. Thanks.